So back to what I was saying. What I was saying.
What's up, friends, family, and fans? It is I, Stone Stafford. I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to keep the intro simple. I'm going to wear the humble cap. I am here with the pilot.
Oh, I get to fly today.
With the pilot,
I'll take it.
Mr.
Johnny Vaughn.
Hey, and you are listening to L.I.F.E on podcast. This is where we listen and inspire friends
Everywhere.
Yo, and we are with our great friend, the savant, and I will tell you where that word comes from, Mr. Lee Heisman. And today we're going to be talking about, I don't have a topic yet, so whatever the thing said when you clicked on it, that's what we're talking about. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, guys? Thank you. I'm intimidated right now. As you guys started, it was a beautiful handoff. It was like a symphony. Your intro was truly a symphony.
Man, thank you. I will say this. So Stone has lightly used the term savant with me, and it's always humbling because I know what the term means. And he'll say that to other people, say, Johnny's a bit of a savant. When he says it about you, this isn't Lee is a bit of a savant.
Right.
Lee is a savant.
Freaking so much so that he named his company Savant Technologies.
Exactly.
I did enable, and you guys are referencing you're going to drop 252 toothpicks on the table
Just
or
might
something.
do that.
It's like,
So we are sitting here with Mr. Lee Heisman. How are you, sir?
I'm always good, but again, your studio, Stone, meeting Johnny for the first time, I see why the tandem here. It really is a recipe. It's like a beautiful meal. If you just had a basic piece of chicken, you'd be like, all right, it's fine. But you start adding the accoutrements into it. You guys together are
Say that
Accoutrements. Well, you heard what he said. So do you think that like 100,000 people should be listening to us right now?
At the very least.
A million, do you think?
Well, let's see if we can get there today.
We already heard what he said. So at this point, what you want to do is you say, I know I like where this is going so far. Go ahead and hit that like, hit that subscribe, and tell a friend. You know what I'm saying? So it only gets better from here. That's all I can tell you. Mr. Lee Heisman. So tell us a little bit about who is Lee Heisman? What do you do? And then we're going to get into all the juicy stuff.
My gosh. Well, gentlemen, I've been fortunate to be involved in many things, and I've rarely been on this side of the microphone, and a camera, that is. Goodness. Old man, over 50 now, Stone. Turned 51.
You look amazing.
Thank you, my friend.
Looks amazing. Actually, no, he has abs. Like he literally has abs. And, all right, folks, no homo. I was working out with the guy plenty of times. We won't show the video.
And Stone does not have abs, as I now have.
I have one, though. I have one that's doing one of these mode, like trying to. So I'm getting there. But anyway.
Trying to Quato his way out.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry about that.
So you're 50
referencing old movies. I don't know if you guys remember Quato.
I might be a little too young for that one.
That's a Total Recall. It was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie years ago.
Yeah, okay, I do know that one.
Remember the little Quato that came out of his belly?
Yep.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I never knew it had a name.
Quato.
I didn't know it had a name.
I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah, we reference Quato all the time.
The name Savant. So go ahead. Please continue.
No, man, look.
What are you involved in? So you're involved in a lot.
Look, I'll give you this high-end summary. Is 51 years old, 26 or 25 years in Philly, South Jersey. Yeah. I could talk more like this if you want on the podcast. No, I'm kidding. I don't talk like that. And 26 years here in Atlanta. Simply put, I relocated down here to open businesses up. I had a master's degree in physical therapy.
Wow.
Yeah, so crazy stuff out of Rutgers.
Didn't know
I went
that.
to Rutgers Camden. Have you know Camden, New Jersey?
Jersey, stand up.
Spectacular. Camden, New Jersey. I think we were renowned when I went to college there for the least safe city in the entire country at one point. But it's turned itself around, and I'm still a proud graduate of Rutgers Camden over there as well. Came down to Georgia, opened up a business, a commercial printing company, grew it from 2 people in an apartment to 120 people, doing about $20 million in revenue. I don't mean to give numbers. I'm just giving context
give the
there.
Give the numbers.
Yeah, doing about $20 million in revenue, printing for companies like Home Depot, UPS, Porsche, all down here. But I was like 24, 25, not having a clue what I was doing. Went from there, was fortunate to exit out of that business, and then just started opening up the Savant business, a technology firm. And today, I think there's probably about 8 different businesses that I'm a part of and an owner in, and you just jump on that opportunity. Look, variety is the spice of life.
Hey.
So if you get stuck in one thing, but you got to make sure you put your effort into it.
I'm reading your shirt as you say this.
Oh,
obviously.
which one am I wearing?
His shirt
which one
said
am I
your
having?
comfort zone will kill you.
So I will tell you, at 51 and being very well versed in the world of just people in general, let alone businesses, the hardest thing to do, the easiest thing to do would be what? Get into my comfort zone, just sit back and rest on my laurels. The hardest thing to do is to jump into new things. So every new thing I'm involved in and anything I partake in, even the time we spent together, Stone, it's uncomfortable. It stinks. But when you get through that, what's the next challenge?
Absolutely.
So it's a lot harder than you think. You can easily, many days I want to just sit back and rest on my laurels.
We talk about this thing a lot. people wanting to start businesses, and we had a conversation offline about Stone's business. And many people have the concept that I want to be my own boss. I want to be an entrepreneur. That principle right there, I think, is the foundational principle that everybody misses. Everybody, even people who are talented at it, who just do it innately, naturally, don't even think that that's what it is. But dive into it deeply for you, what that is. That innate thing about how you move from business 1 to business 8 and staying uncomfortable and then being uncomfortable becoming your comfortable.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I'm never going to say that I'm comfortable. So that is the unique and challenging part from every aspect of your life. So if there's listeners out there that truly have an interest in what I'm going to say, I will tell you there is no business cap and no personal cap. You are the same person across the board. So be clear, in my professional life, I might use less profanities. Let's say that. Being from Jersey, obviously you can throw some profanities around. The only difference is in the business environment, I probably use a little bit less profanities. But who you are as a person is who you are going to be in your work. And that title, I've never used the title entrepreneur. I appreciate that, right? I've heard the term. I know it's a little bit abused and overused sometimes. But as a business owner and or entrepreneur, I will tell you, I'm not. People think, oh, you're sitting on a throne, you're the decision maker. And the reality is, I'm subject to my staff, to my clients, to my employees, to the payroll.
Right.
Everybody's got their own role. I will tell you this, in all my businesses, and there's many that have been out there for over 25 years, we do have business cards. We do have, obviously, signatures inside of email addresses. No one at my companies has a title. If you look at all business cards, including myself, nobody has a title. Because I've learned this early on, we all need to do the same task. Now, we all have our responsibility, like today, right? Johnny, you're doing an amazing job running the production, of course, and I saw everything you're doing in advance. That's your swim lane here in addition to hosting. But everybody has to have their responsibilities. But if need be, I'm going to jump over and help you with the production. Stone's going to jump over and help you. And when you can build and cultivate that environment, I won't say the word culture because people will abuse that. I've done that for years.
Yeah.
You notice I jump right to environment. I've been talking about that for years, 25 years.
So for you, what's the difference between an environment and a culture?
Oh, it's just the people abuse the word culture and don't really mean it. I hear people abuse it so
and that
much.
happens a lot.
Once it's overused, I want to build a culture. I want to build a culture. There is value in that. I just can't say that word because then it just feels like I'm just doing the canned response.
Well, it's like entrepreneur, though. I love how you say most people want to be entrepreneurs, but they really want to be wantrepreneurs.
Yeah, I don't use, Johnny, I've never, with respect, used the word that I'm an entrepreneur. I don't, first off, you can call me that. You can call me anything you want, right? That's the thing. I got thick skin. It doesn't matter to me. But I've never even put a title on myself. Really, when I meet people and I say, this is my business here, I don't even say it's mine very often. When I talk to my staff or my employees or my clients, I never say I'm the boss. What can I do to help and what part of the role do I play? So, a lot of that has to do with humility. And I will tell you, and for listeners out there, I have been fortunate to have a quality life, a quality career, and we'll go into more depth of a lot of the failures, and that's really what people want to know. Because who cares about all the easy stuff? You think, I made it to the end, it's good. But I will tell you, in working in my world, I get to be surrounded by, and that's what I work towards, is being surrounded by high quality people that are far superior in areas than myself.
Absolutely.
The difference is a lot of people are living in their own echo chamber. And a lot of people don't have humility. And I'm being a little negative, but if you can gain that humility, right, and not want to have a title next to you and have this and that, and here's all I'm going to say. I got another T-shirt that says "Comparison is the thief of joy." Ooh. I get the opportunity all the time to be around the coolest people and do the coolest things in all of my businesses. I don't use social media. I don't even have an Instagram or a Facebook account.
It's hard to believe that. Really.
I do not by design. By design, because it's tempting, because I do some really neat stuff, and I know it would be really cool to have videos and pictures of all the people I hang out with and all the people I'm learning from and training. But by design,
you don't want to feed into your own echo chamber.
I absolutely do not.
But let's dissect that phrase, though. Comparison is the thief of joy. Let's work that backwards, because we always talk about the difference between joy and happiness. Joy is something that's internal. Happiness is heavily external motivated. But when you're not happy or joyful, it's usually because you're not grateful. Because in order to be happy or joyful, you have to start with being grateful. Be grateful for what you have. And if you find that you're focused on being grateful for what you have, you're not comparing. You know what I mean? Because when you compare, your eyes no longer on what you have and what you're blessed in. Your eyes are more focused on what someone else is blessed in, and that steals your joy. So I really wanted to, because that was very deep what you said, and I didn't want that to be glossed over. Comparison truly is the thief of joy. Is that what you said?
Comparison is the thief of joy. And I'll tell you, listeners, if for the one, I always joke, if someone's listening to this podcast, for my one listener out there that chose to listen to me today, no, I'm kidding. Listen, there's no question.
I don't know. You were the one that listen to the last one. So if you're not listening,
It's a valid
then we don't
point.
have the one.
I will be the one.
You
Lee,
are
I'm
the
talking
one.
to you, brother. I'm talking to you right now.
There can be only one.
You've heard the statement before. This is not revolutionary. You are a byproduct of the people that you surround yourself with.
Yep.
As I've gotten
Show me your
older,
network. I'll show you my net worth kind of deal.
there you go.
Almost what it
It's
is.
exactly right. And I'm telling you, what I have refined recently over the past 5 to 10 years, say decade, is I'm surrounding myself with people that are very successful in their own right. When I say successful, that is not defining financial at all. Define just I'm happy and satisfied in my life where it is. Because when I have those select individuals, I am so open to sharing any of my personal success, and I know there's no jealousy. And I surround myself with people who don't carry jealousy in their life, and vice versa. I'm so happy in my life. If I know Johnny or Stone, and you guys tell me something amazing that happened, or you had some great transaction in business or a personal success, I'm going to be overjoyed because I'm already happy. I'm not jealous of that. So it's got to start with your crew that's around you, and making sure that we're all kind of happy for each other because we're all happy within. You know, I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I speak on perspective glasses.
Yeah.
You know, and you talked about gratitude. It's all about expectations and perspective.
Absolutely.
That is really where it starts. I don't want to go off on a tangent and interrupt you.
No,
in your
tangents
question.
are
All the
what we do.
tangents, that's literally
Matter
all
of fact,
we
it's
do.
called Life on Podcast /Tangents.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talking a lot. I'm sorry. I talk fast and I'm talking a lot. I can slow down. Like
No,
this
we
Jersey
know
guy to
how
my
to
left.
jump in. We
Give
played
us-
double
yeah,
dutch
dude.
when we were young.
You gotta understand this too. Like, okay, so I'm gonna lift the veil a little bit here too, because one of the things that I'm noticing, I'm real big on the subtleties of great leaders. Now, I'm gonna call you that, whether you're gonna accept the term.
I'll take it now, but it
because-
might change by the end.
Well, we'll see. But one of the things that people do is like direct engagement. You've held an immense amount of eye contact while talking to me, while talking to Stone.
But you're gorgeous, Johnny. How would I not?
This beard is,
The beard
this
is the-
beard is immaculate. It really is.
The eyes glazed over, maybe from lack of sleep from being in Chicago for 2 weeks.
A lot of
but-
that has to do with it too. But moving back and forth in conversation between the two of us and carrying the conversation, one, people probably haven't even noticed the fact that you have been talking a lot, but the information you've been delivering has been pertinent and necessary to what we're
Has
having a
substance
conversation
to it.
about.
Yeah.
So
Tell me more.
Again, like I said, lifting the veil.
Keep going, Johnny.
Like,
Keep going, Johnny. Keep going.
I'm one of those people, like, I study body language a lot. And that's one of those subtle things that people don't even realize that they've been listening to someone talk a lot or for a long time, when they can hold someone's attention the way that you are while giving me information that I may know it, but you're delivering it in a way that I may not have received it before.
Kiss Johnny on
So
air.
I'm buttering this roll a little bit to ask a question.
There's so many.
I'm gonna ask a question here. So going back to you saying like in your companies, people don't have titles. I'm really, really big in my company. Like when I put together, I don't have employees. Anytime I do a project, I bring contractors on. And Stone's on one of my teams right now. I'm real big from leading from behind. I take all of the brunt of every weight of every hit that happens, but I make sure that my team is, one, empowered to do the job that I brought them on to do, is competent and capable to do the job that I'm able to do, and then they're receiving the gratitude from the clients and all of the promotional stuff. What's your take, one, on that position that I take on that, and then what's your tactics and how do you go about actually running a company without titles and having anyone being empowered enough to do what they're doing and being successful while doing it?
Did we
exactly
not
us.
just have this conversation, right?
Beautiful. Stone and I were just talking
Yeah.
about that. First off, you've hit the nail on the head. So what you're doing is exactly perfect. You're exactly right. Now, it seems easier for listeners out there to say, oh, cool, I just lead from behind. I hire people, they do the job right, and I just stand behind and manage it. What you said, you probably skipped over 20, 30 different things that you have to do to train that team and set those expectations. So you're being very humble, Johnny. You're being very humble. You're exactly correct. That empowerment is huge, and that's exactly what I do. So I've just replicated what you just said. The difference is a lot of people say, oh, cool, I just hire and let them do what they do. I don't mind you driving the bus, and I don't mind, not you, the staff driving the bus. They can even hit the rails and scrape the bus on occasion, because the reality is I want them to scrape the bus. I want them to bump the wheel and hit the side panel. If the bus starts taking off over the bridge, I'm going to grab the wheel and I'm going to say, hey, we're taking over here. So as much as I agree with you, 1,000% correct at the end game, the process is the hard part. Absolutely. And the process is, I'm sure, and I'm going to come back and interview you, when you hire those people and you lead from behind, I'm sure you take time to train them, set your expectations. Sure. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Because guys, listen, life is all about expectations. That is it. Your level of happiness, satisfaction, and success is about setting expectations. If you don't set expectations in your personal life, spouse, significant other, children, work environment, everybody's freewheeling it, and suddenly there's going to be a lot of angry people out there.
Right.
So the expectations can be liquid. They need to be flexible and movable, but those have to be set early on. So I'm sure during your process, you've spent a lot of time.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, it didn't just happen.
Absolutely. Now, there are certain people like Stone who we're kind of on the same wavelength. So it's not really necessary with some of those. And I will say I'm a little more lax with it because I like to study how people take those reins and how they drive my bus. I love that analogy. And
see,
then
you just gave Stone a big piece of advice, and I know Stone's growing many businesses, but you're right. So what you're telling me is you're gonna give the reins to a certain amount. So your reins are cut at a certain length before you have to pull them back.
Absolutely.
But you let them, and you want to watch their patterns of behavior, and then you can accentuate or de-accentuate what they do.
That's absolutely what I do.
There you go.
And let me talk to you guys because we have a podcast and people know me for what I've done in music and all that kind of stuff. And in some eyes, I'm a leader, if you will. But I never stop learning. You just said you can't separate. You don't have a business cap and a personal cap, right? They're the same, right? So that's character to me. And so my character is never stop learning. And I'll give credit to these two guys. You talked about your circle. One of the main reasons why I joined L.I.F.E, it's a think tank that both Lee and I are a part of, is to friend up. When pandemic hit, I was like, this is a great time to reset. And I looked at my circle, and no disrespect to people in my circle. I love them. They're there for me. But I found that I was doing a lot of the pouring.
I'll point this out that I was one of the people in the circle when he made this comment.
But you were one of the steps in the right direction, right? I was doing a lot of pouring, and I realized I wasn't being poured into a lot. So I said, I'm on a mission to friend up, is what I called it. That's exactly why I joined L.I.F.E. Now, shout out to Chris Capehart who introduced me, and so that changed everything. So where my leadership is concerned, I'm on this mission to run this studio with an excellence that I desire, but I've run into a lot of friction with my staff, and Johnny hears a lot of it. One of the things I learned from talking to Johnny is, one, stop complaining. Right. Two, I learned it from one of my staff members. They were like, if it doesn't affect the client experience, don't make as big of a deal about it, which you kind of told me in some ways the other day. And then three, this whole thing of what you guys are talking about of leading from behind. So I just started an exercise 2 weeks ago where my 4 managers for a week, they're the owners. And I step back. I don't touch anything. I don't do anything unless I see the bus going off the cliff, because at the end of the day, it's going to revert back to me.
Absolutely.
So then I'll be like, well, we're going to have to undo this when I take it. So I'll step in. But we're in the process of doing that right now because I'm trying to get them to the point where they're invested in this business. Because, just like you don't work with people you have to really, you'd rather work with people you like. You enjoy your job when you feel emotionally or mentally vested in that job. And that's what I'm hoping to get out of this. But I just want to credit that some of the idea I feel came from talking to you guys over time.
Yeah, just Johnny's mentality is right on point. That's right. I mean, you're right on point. You just probably are so good at it. You take for granted of all the steps you've done to lead them in the right direction.
I was just having a conversation with somebody recently. It was like, it's dangerous when you get good at something and it becomes a part of your system and you do it and you make it look easy. And then everyone sees that it looks easy and they don't get the individual
Johnny, I will
steps
tell
that-
you, I've heard this, and this isn't my opinion. I've heard this that with the currently 8 businesses that I own, with the staff and people are always like, well, Lee, we need some time together, but you're too busy. I'm, whoever told you I'm too busy?
Right.
I tell them all that. Whoa, what do you mean? Well, I to make time for you anytime. Well, you got a lot going on, but whoever said you don't put your thoughts and insecurities on me.
What does assuming do? Let's dumb it down for a second.
That's out of you and me.
Right.
Exactly right. I love it. But at the same time, you're exactly right in terms of the people that follow you and how you grow that you make it look too easy. People say, oh, Lee, you've had an easy path. Clearly, look at all the successes you've had, exits of many, many businesses that you've had, opening a number of other successful organizations. And the reality is you're just seeing the 1%.
Right.
You don't see the 99% of failures and wasted meetings and times. I mentioned the other day, I'm fortunate to be the keynote for Goshen Valley. Goshen Valley in the state of Georgia is the largest foster care system. And I have the fortune next week on Tuesday to speak to approximately 250 of their 17 to 21-year-olds that are leaving the system.
Nice.
Now, I do a whole presentation on belief saboteurs. And part of it is I also do another presentation on something called the mundanity of success. And if I don't know if you know, mundanity is a boring process, right? It's something, hey, this is very mundane, it's very, very boring. And I use a video of LeBron James and also the soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo. And I put a video up of them holding up the championship trophy in the NBA for LeBron and Cristiano Ronaldo holding up the world. I don't think they won a World Cup, but he will hold up all of his trophies for their leagues over there. And then I put the video up of LeBron alone in a stadium just shooting free throws.
Yeah.
Boring I don't make him watch an hour of that, but shooting the thousands of free throws that he's doing alone. I have a video of Cristiano doing some ridiculous kick over and over again that he may use one time in the course of one game, a 90-minute game, and no one sees that boring mundanity, which ultimately culminates into that level of success.
And they make it look easy. And I'll be honest with you, that's kind of why I left the adult industry. One, I received Christ as my Lord and Savior, but two, I just made it all look too easy. So I had to leave the whole porn industry because everyone was coming in and they didn't put in the work that I did. Yeah. You know what I mean? So outside, so then I was like, you know what, you guys, you don't understand what it took to do this.
We've talked about leaving your burned out dreams in the past. Oh, let's let
Were you joking, Joe? Were you joking?
Oh, dude, he's so There's nothing real about that.
Okay, no. He was like, yes! I'm like, okay, we're getting into the point. Because I think, with respect, when I got the text
I really should be an
for
actor.
Johnny Vaughn, I said, that is an amazing porn name. And I'm sure you guys have gone over, do you know the etiology of your porn name?
It's one of them. There's a couple different ones. You can find your street name. And
Yeah,
then-
It's the
something like that,
first animal that you own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's your street
your
name.
street
Now,
name.
I will win this, just so you're aware. I already have the winning one. With all due respect, whoever is out there, please post something.
I don't know. I think mine's better.
It's not. Go ahead. Go for it.
Let's swing some sticks.
I'm going to drop this.
You first. We're going to swing some sticks. No, you first. You
So,
first.
all right, so I will share, but you got to give a history. It's got to be truthful.
Now you said
I
the
will.
street the first street you lived on?
No, it's the name of your first pet
animal.
and then the first street you live
And the first street you lived on.
Okay, go ahead.
So I lived in South Jersey, okay, and I'm gonna let you reverse engineer all of this.
Okay.
So there was a TV show years ago. Now, what's funny is I remember most lines of all TV shows I grew up watching.
Right on.
Welcome Back, Kotter, Good Times, everything across the board. And the reason people say, man,
What's this? Okay, time out. Don't leave where you
Don't
are.
forget that, yeah.
What are the lyrics in the theme song to Good Times? I need to hit since you didn't forget it. I'm testing you.
sure.
now.
I mean, I'm not a singer and everything. Wait, you're talking about George Jefferson.
Oh yeah, that's what are the lyrics?
I'm
I
moving
wanna
on
hear
up
it.
to
Yeah.
the top. To
That's
the east
Jefferson.
side.
That's the
Oh, the
Jefferson.
Jefferson. Sorry.
You said
hold on.
Good Times.
Wrong
You're right,
black
you're right,
show.
you're right, yeah, that's right. Yes.
We're not all alike, Lee. We're not the same.
George
Now we
Jefferson.
all have the same theme song. Jeez.
I don't know if I know the Good Times one.
big thing is
Anytime
like-
you need a payment, good
Good
times.
times.
Anytime you need a friend, good times. Anytime you getting hungry.
Don't even worry about it.
There's no way I knew that.
Yeah, I don't know the
Okay,
rest.
I just want to put you on the spot.
I'm
You
not
said you
really
were
sure.
That would have been, if I broke them out,
If
you would have been
did it, I
absolutely
would've
But
amazing.
he's good though,
Blew my
because he said when he was coming to the show today, he said, "Is it casual?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm wearing a t-shirt and a baseball cap." And he says, "Looking good, Billy Ray." I was
And
like,
then I waited. I said, "You going to send me back something?"
I was
or
like,
not?
"Feeling good, Lewis."
Of course. So people always like,
Yeah,
how do you
she-
know every Eddie Murphy movie? How do you know all
Yeah,
the lines? It's not that I have a great memory. It's that back when I was growing up, because I'm 51 and I'm old, there were only 4 movies released per year.
One more thing. You remember that Stone? He's 51. And
Don't
he's
forget the
old.
name.
And
Don't forget the name.
Nope.
The-
He's 51. He says he's old. So
It's all a mentality.
Let it go.
It's
okay?
all a mentality. I'm not old.
Just let it go.
I'm not old. I will always be the youngest in the room.
It's a valid
Just
point.
understand
It's
that.
a valid point. Well, your skin is so soft and smooth.
I mean, he knows that by looking at my
That's a
skin,
valid
just
point.
looking at it.
So,
But go ahead.
so I do say there is only like 4 or 5 movies that were released back in the 80s.
Right.
You know, there wasn't the volume of movies. So let's get back to the porn.
porn names. There you go.
So J.J. Walker would come in the room and I named my dog whatever he would say. What is that?
Dynamite.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dynamite.
Oh, so it was the first name of your pet, not the kind of pet you had.
named-
No,
Yeah,
first
the
name of
first
the
name.
pet.
First name of the pet and then the street. Okay.
so-
My dog's dog's name was Dynamite. I grew up in South Jersey. It was an Apple area, and we had so some of the streets were authors: Walt Whitman, Longfellow, things of that nature.
Right
It
on.
wasn't Longfellow; that would be funny, but it's better. But it's better. The area that I grew up in was apples. So there was a street down the street called a Macintosh. There's a wine sap, and I lived on Delicious Way.
Okay, I lost.
Dynamite Delicious. Dynamite Delicious.
I lost that one.
Johnny, maybe. I don't know.
All right, what's yours? What will be
All right,
yours?
so my very first pet was a cat who I got from my 4th grade teacher. His son, when he was born, was allergic to the cat. The cat's name was Jay, but everyone called the cat by his nickname, which was Kibbles.
You might be winning here.
And the first street I grew up on was Lockhart, so my porn name would actually be
Kibbles Lockhart.
Kibbles but it would have been Kibble's Heart.
Kibble's Heart.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah, but the good part is Kibble's Heart and Dynamite Delicious work together. Kibble's Heart's just my
Your B.
I was going to say.
Yeah, she's your B.
So yeah, I've had this
Mine
conversation
would
with
be Lucky Overbrook.
It's interesting.
It's interesting.
I want to hear the backstory on that one, but Lucky Brookwood, she's cute.
Well, because I had two hamsters. We had two
Exactly right.
hamsters or two gerbils, and that's why I'm glad it was the name and not the actual animal. So, but the first one that got named was Lucky. The second one was Bucky. It was Lucky and Bucky. We were at 7. Don't worry about it. So Lucky, and then the first street was Overbrook Way or Overbrook Avenue. So Lucky.
So I like
Overbrook.
Brooke. I like that. That's
I like the
cute.
Brooke one.
It's
Yeah.
you're very cute.
So
It's well done.
addressing the
brother.
fact that you thought you were coming here to work with a porn star.
That's what you scared me for a second. I wasn't sure where this was going,
But I did receive Christ. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm gonna get serious again,
Yeah.
because I think this is super important. When we first got into this, you admitted to being a bit negative, and I think that's important because in building anything, a lot of people always say, "What should I do? What's the path I should take?" No one ever asks, "What did you screw up?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
should I not do?"
Right.
In doing my research for this, because I'm a researchaholic. I watched a couple different interviews that you've done in the past. I really like the one you did with Hustle Up. It was super dope.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a while ago. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago or something like that. But you talked about the 13 things that strong-minded people don't do. Now, I know how difficult it is to put people on the spot and say, "Hey, give me this list."
By the way, I'm going to go memorize Good Times
Go
theme song
to
when we
the
leave,
theme
by the
song.
way.
No,
'Cause
He really will, though.
I know
Like,
he will.
No, he
The only
really
thing I was
will.
going to ask you about was what's the ending? Is he saying hanging in a child line or is it walking by the Jordan? I was gonna ask you what the actual
It
lyrics
is
of that
hanging in
was,
the
but it's
child line.
hanging in the
And I
child
never
line.
knew what that
People
was for
didn't know
years.
at all.
Yeah.
A lot of people learned about it from Chappelle's show because him and Neil did a bit and they actually went through the whole thing and broke it down.
There it is.
But I wanted to ask you about that. Like that.
I started to cut that out, but
What's up?
the song was written by a white lady. No, that was Jefferson's. Was it Jefferson's or Good
Didn't
Times?
she do both of them?
I think
thought
she did
wrote
both. It
of
was
them.
a husband and wife team,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I
Of
think
course she did both, because there's only 3 writers in the
Exactly.
entire world
Right.
at the time.
But that's the thing. So there you go.
Yeah. I want to put you on the spot to see if that list is readily accessible because hearing it, and I mean, again,
It's the 13
I don't
what?
remember the list. It's the 13 things.
Oh my
that
gosh, if I remember all
strong-minded people
13 of them,
don't
wow.
do. Well, what I'm going to ask you is, of the 13 things, there's always 3 or 4 that stand out that are the most
Sure.
prominent that you have to make sure you stand by. Of that list, what would you give? Like, give us that negativity.
Knee-jerk reaction is if you're wallowing and complaining, right? If it's never your fault, and remember this echo chamber world that we live in. There's a reason why I don't have social media, because the moment you get out there, again, most people social media is a whole other conversation. We don't need to waste our time on that. But I just try to avoid echo chambers because then I simply can make excuses for myself. And stronger-minded people do not make excuses. They own it, even if it's in their stratosphere, not necessarily themselves. They own taking a piece of that responsibility. You speak about failures, and again, I appreciate me coming on the show. Very humbled that you guys even wanted to talk to me, and I have had a lot of successes. But people don't realize, years ago, Stone, I have that T-shirt. 12, 13 years ago, I have that divorce T-shirt. I had a first life, and I got remarried to a wonderful woman in the past 10 years. We've been married
So
for 10 years.
you're fully abreast on the 3 rings then.
What are the 3 rings?
The engagement ring, the wedding ring, and then the suffer ring.
The who ring? The suffer ring?
suffer
The suffer ring.
Oh, suffer ring. Oh,
Brilliant. Absolutely
boom.
brilliant. But again, I don't sit in the world of suffering very long. So I'll tell a quick story, because as much as I've had successes and I want people to listen to, and I say the word wisdom, not just because of the age, because of my failures, right? My wisdom did not come from success. Anybody can take a check and make some money and be successful. That's easy. It's how do you get over those obstacles? Right. So first chapter, real quick, I was fortunate. I got married. I had 2 wonderful daughters at that time. And when they were 4 and 6 years old and I sold my first business, I probably was around the house too much after I sold my first business. And my ex-wife at that time was like, "Hey, I've had enough of you." And I always joke, and mark this one down if you've been divorced. My first divorce was the best decision of my life that I never made.
Gotcha.
It was the best decision of my life because I am a loyal son of a gun, and I would have stayed married for the next 20, 30 years, unhappy, but I just didn't know anything different than being loyal, and that's still always my personality. I thank my ex-wife if she's out there. I mean, I know she's out there, not around town.
Wait a minute, that sounded like a hit.
If she's out,
If she's
sorry,
out
sorry.
there.
But I thank her. But again, she said to me at that time, "You're a great man. I want you to have the children." And I was fortunate to get sole custody of that 4 and 6-year-old. Wow. So when I was younger, trying to grow one business, I had gotten a divorce. From the sale of my operations, I paid a majority of that money off, and I was able to then say, okay, me and my 4 and 6-year-old, let's go for it. It's just us alone all the time. And I speak about perspective glasses. And this is a big, again, for listeners, if you've listened this far, please take some notes on this piece. After I got divorced, I'm trying to grow a business, had no money. I ended up claiming Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So I am 11 years out of post Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Even if you knew where I was today from a business and financial world, I'm in the completely opposite realm. I'm in the antithesis of bankruptcy right now, in a fortunate way. But the fun part is I could go right back to it tomorrow and I'd be just as happy as I am today. So I will tell you, I'll never forget this moment. My 4 and 6-year-old are sitting upstairs in the bedroom. My parents are in the kitchen after I just got divorced and claimed Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the lowest of the low. And they looked at me and said, well, how are you staying positive? My parents relocated from New Jersey down here to help me with the children because you're alone with 4 and 6-year-old. I don't care who you are.
Right, yeah.
It's chaos. It was to the point where I was trying to grow a business and I would sit in a school line to pick them up from school, and I was on a conference call and I'd see them walking down and I would interrupt the conference call. Say, excuse me, whoever I was speaking to, would you mind re-explaining this? And then I'd hit mute.
Smart.
And I
Smart.
and my kids would get in the car. I'm like, shut up. I need to. We don't have any money for food next week, so I need to try to get this. Just be quiet in the car. Here's some Cheetos and do something.
Right.
So my parents are in the kitchen. They say, how are you holding it together? And I said, look in front of me. And there happened to be 2 pairs of I had a couple sunglasses out there. I put the left one on, and I said, let me tell you all the facts. I'm divorced. My children don't have a mother. I have no income. I have no money today. I don't know where I'm going to get my mortgage next week. I don't know where I'm going to get my car payment. And my business I'm trying to grow, the Savant business, hasn't made any income for me. I could just keep going. I said, those are all facts. Oh, by the way, I'm a failure because I got divorced, couldn't keep a marriage. I can just keep going. And I took those glasses off, and I didn't do this, but figuratively, I smashed them. I said, I never want to put those back on again. Why would I want to put those on? Let me pick up this set of glasses. I'm still living in the house that I raised my kids in, right? The courtroom, when you go Chapter 7, they still allow you to stay in the house if you can try to make that mortgage. They don't want you to leave the house. My parents are in front of me. They're alive and healthy. I have my health. My own children are upstairs, get to see their parents, and I get to raise them myself.
And grandparents. That's a whole nother
And the
level.
grandparents. I get to run a business and have an opportunity for me to try to restart my life again. So I went off on a tangent about all those. Those are facts too. So which pair of glasses do I feel like putting on? Those other don't even exist anymore. I smash them. I rarely, if ever, look at those.
Right.
I experience it and I put that in my pocket to know, I don't want to do that again. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I don't forget about it.
Right. Thank you.
But I put on those other glasses and I'm not BSing myself.
Yep.
I'm giving you all the facts. And it's all how I choose to look at it. And that's what we talk about with success, expectations, and humility. Absolutely. Is remembering that moment. So again, that was a very challenging time. And fortunately, right around that time, within a few months, business started turning around and you just feed into that energy and you put your energy, heart, and soul into it. And things have grown. And they're now, 20 and 18. And my new wife and I have a 9-year-old, which is wonderful. And having a whole second
did it
go.
again.
I did it again.
Is that Ireland?
Very Britney Spears. I did it again.
Is that Ireland?
Ireland.
I just love that name.
Ireland,
I've never met her,
like the
but
country,
I've heard her
yes.
talk about it. I just love that name, Ireland.
No, she's a sweetheart. And again, as an older father, with a second go around, you learn from your experience.
Absolutely.
And I learned how to be a better husband. I learned how to be a better father because those other girls, poor girls, I'm running around. I'm not worried so much about being a good parent to them. I'm like, brush your teeth, go to bed. Yeah. You can't get sick because I can't miss work or we're not going to have any money. So I've got to make sure you're having everything perfect. That level of stress and duress was crazy. Those poor girls got strung through it, but I get to see them today all the time. I think even after today, I'm in the city. One lives in the city. I'm like, we're doing some lunch this afternoon.
On.
Always.
I mean, I think that attitude and energy that you have, the reason why you get to experience life or life gets to throw experiences your way is because you literally attract them, dude. Like your whole personality and energy is extremely magnetic. But because you're so positive and because you wear the correct perspective glasses, you're magnetized towards the right things. And I mean, you told me about an incident where you got to be in the motorcade for friggin' Air Force One or something like that.
Can I tell that story?
Yeah, tell the story.
I mean, that was
I actually
so random.
I heard about it, but I have not heard.
So
the
here
story.
is the funniest story if you listen out there. So I was speaking recently, you know about the unemployment craze. And let's get back into a business sense real quick. At the end of last year, October, there was the great resignation. You're familiar with that? Everybody left their jobs. Hey, I can do better. Currently, there's 10 million available jobs in this country. There's 5 million people looking for them. It's just a matter of do people want to work. So in the beginning of this year, beginning of 2022, there is called now the Great resistance. I want to make sure I got that right. Where people are like, I'm not going to work if I don't want to work. You got to accommodate me, right, and make sure it works on my schedule. So I joke and I say, well, darn it. See, no cursing. I was about to say that. Well, shucks.
Very good.
Shucks. I'm going to tell you, the unemployment and the Great Resignation and resistance has made its way all the way to the White House, because I get called a few weeks ago from a quality human being that has worked for Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, and obviously through that, this individual has also now been introduced to the Biden family, and said, "Hey Lee, do you want to meet the First Lady? She's going to be in Athens, Georgia. Would you like to meet her? And we can all get lunch and everything." And, well, of course. Absolutely. Why not? Right? And political positions aside,
right.
And I won't get into political, and I don't have political. I think
we're both purple. So
yeah, purple's a great thing. Look, I'm going to make one comment, and I'll end on this one. I think the majority of our country falls together in the middle, and I think you got the extreme 10 on one side, you got the extreme 10% on the other side, and that just gets all the notoriety. And the reality is, we're more alike than we are different. So that's a no-brainer to me. But I will tell you, I'm like, yeah, I'll be there, and then I get a call back saying, "Hey Lee, would you mind driving in the motorcade and taking White House staff?" I'm like, zoinks, the Shaggy Scooby-Doo reference. Yeah, okay. So the Secret Service, so the Secret Service calls me. I have to do a full background check with them. Somehow
they call your daughters, they call your ex-wife,
they call everybody. And they say, okay, you're in. I pull up to the private airport, and this is just for the First Lady, and everybody is in full gear. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Sicario.
Yes.
Right. There was a sequence where they're on that bridge where all the guys are in there, tactical. So I get into my van because I'm going to take a number of White House staff when the plane pulls up on the tarmac, and I've got a tactical vehicle in front of me. And I'll tell one quick. I've got a tactical vehicle, 4 guys in front of me with, I'm talking headgear, lights, armory, ARs, the whole night. And I got a tactical vehicle behind me. They said, do not lose the tail of the car in front of you. Stay on him. And I'm not in a nimble car. I'm not in like a performance vehicle. I'm in a van.
Right.
Million miles an hour. I'll tell you this much. By the time their staff got in, hey guys, welcome. We're going to make it to UGA. From the airport to UGA would normally be, for if you were to drive from that airport to UGA, 20, 25 minutes. You're stopping at 6 minutes. Yeah, 6.5, 7 minutes. The oddest part was running through intersections without stopping.
Yep. Yeah.
Police, there was a sequence where we're on the road and motorcycles are flying by me on the right. Woo, 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 and it's scary. And you're like, my muscles were tense. I was driving a million miles an hour. And then when you pull up, everybody's looking to see what's going on.
Who's in there?
Yeah, she goes in, and then eventually they call me in and like, Lee, come on in. You can meet, First Lady. You take some time with her, and then we go back, and it's 7 minutes, 6.5, 7 minutes back to the airport. What an experience!
Wow.
My wife was laughing, like, "What are you doing this?" I'm like, it's an opportunity. Why wouldn't I?
Heck,
why
yes.
don't you? Exactly.
Listen, let me also share for you out there, for everybody out there. This was a unique opportunity, and my relationships created this. If I was asked, would you mind being on the set of a movie to serve food? Would you mind mopping up in this toilet area for this actor? And I would do that too. So be crystal clear. Even in the roles and positions that I have, and whatever status I have, if you ask me to go serve food or pour drinks for some unique experience, all day long.
I was actually going to point. I'm glad you did that, because it almost.
Sorry to jump into
No,
that.
I don't necessarily need to make this statement. I'm just going to do it because I haven't talked in a while. I'm going to be.
Sorry about to see. I'm talking too much.
No,
But you're the guest.
I want to say this because Stone and I have this tension in a few things. We're very rarely on opposite roads, but we're on opposite sides of the same road a lot. And Stone used the term, you attract these things to you. And I'm really big on saying it's not so much attracting it. The opportunities are always around. It's being observant and being willing to take them when they present themselves.
See, I think it's both.
He thinks it's a bit of semantics. I think they're very, very distinct, because there's an opportunity right now for every single person who's listening to this, who's watching it, for us. Are we being observant enough to see what that potential opportunity is, and can we do it? But Stone feels
I agree.
Your energy brings.
But I think it's both, because it's the whole thing. When you decide that, hey, I'm going to buy a mint green Tesla, right? First of all, why would you do that? Mint green, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly you see mint green Teslas all over the place.
But they've
always been there. Except now your radar, your eyes are open because your intention has been set, and now you know them. So I agree with you on that. But you jokingly said to me one day, you gave me a call, and you said, have you been calling in opportunities and blah, blah, blah in your affirmations? I said, I do it every day. Well, must be working, because I got something for you. Now, this wasn't something I knew was out there. It isn't something I came across, and all of a sudden, it literally, quite literally came to me. and now is being on his team for this new event.
And
project.
in this moment,
so I think it's both.
I'm thinking, I'm like, he's going to use this against me because I need him for this. And I was like, I need to pick somebody else just so Stone can't say, see, I attract, which is why I prefaced it by asking you, had you been doing it?
And I said yes because I attracted it. But this is going to my main point, which is something he said. You're saying so much that I don't want to get glossed over, and I'm going to coin this phrase. You said relationships create opportunities. Ooh. And that is so key. If I can encourage you guys to, one, expand your circle. But for a lot of people, before you expand it, you're going to have to break it. You're going to have to let some people go. Set them on the outside ring, on the outer ring. You may not have to kick them out of your life, but
can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
So there's something that I've been working on recently, and this is going to be, it's going to have a negative connotation, which I normally don't do.
Give it.
But it's important. I'm going to echo what you said and let you finish it. And we're going to talk about another theory. But number one, I have worked over the past few years to devalue friends. Hear me out. Devalue friends. They are still my friends. I don't. And when I say devalue, that's not meant as a lesser person.
Right.
But as you said, I'm not kicking anybody. My circle is very large. But I have learned to devalue friends that might not provide back the same that I'm giving out there. So it's not a criticism. It might be an internal criticism of I'm not sure where I want you to be, and that's those layers and circles. But I have worked to devalue friends so I can put energy and effort into other areas of your life and other friendships. Continue on.
No,
Please,
and that's exactly it. And you said that aren't giving what you're also giving out. But for me too, I'm also looking for you to give what I don't have to give to fill the void. I'm looking for that. And for those that would get offended by that, make yourself of value. And we even had a podcast of doing that, how to make yourself invaluable.
Make yourself of value.
So if you want to be in that person's circle, find where you fit in. Find where you can give something that they don't have.
So, you mentioned about creating opportunity. Something just happened 2 days ago, and I'm rarely... I have so many fun, unique things that happen every day to me, and I actually went ballistic. And my poor wife, who I can't impress her, make her... and blue moon, I can make her laugh about something.
All the stuff you say.
No, she's an amazing young lady, and I would... But just because you live with someone, it takes that extra supercalifragilistic thing for me to do.
Absolutely.
To be like, oh my God, that's hysterical. And for once I impressed her. I rarely impress her, right? And it's not financial, it would never, like I said, she met me when I was bankrupt, by the way, which is the coolest part.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we got nothing. She's like, I don't care. I'm like, oh, cool, me either. Because we both come from parents who were both actually school teachers. Wow. And hers in Ohio, I was in New Jersey, but my parents my father was a gym teacher. My mother did some secretarial work. And it's important for listeners to know the context of, well, this guy's got it easy. He comes from something. And I do come from something. A good quality support system with great health insurance from the government. I remember, I'll never forget that. I will tell you the strangest story. This is so weird. And this might not even be that big of a story, but it was big to me. We just traveled internationally for the first time. We were fortunate to, I hate to drop names, but it was a cool experience.
Drop the names, dude.
So there's a singer named Andrea Bocelli, the number one tenor in the world, and we went to a party at his home in Tuscany.
Yeah.
I know, it was crazy. And Michael Bolton walks in, we're like, hey, Michael, and he's like singing.
Was it on the jet?
I'm sorry?
Was it on the jet that you were telling me about?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This was just at his home in Tuscany. Okay. But you went to Florence for a week. We're like, well, this is had this great event we were going to at his home. Wow, let's go to Italy in advance. And we went for a week. And here's the thing. I'm going to complain about something. Well, 14 hours of a trip. You're jet lagged.
First world complaint?
Yeah, first world complaint. Which was, you're just so darn tired by the time you land. And you're like, man, I just want to enjoy myself, but I'm so tired from all the jet lag. So we talk about being perceptive, and I think it's another piece, right? Being kind. My expertise is perception. I played in the World Series of Poker 15 years in a row. I always go to Vegas. I know that is a little hidden jewel of mine. I'm always sitting at the tables for not only regular games, but also in the World Series of Poker.
That did not pop up in my research.
That's okay. And I don't share much because I'm an addict.
Got to introduce you to my friend Jay.
By the way, I'm an addict. And in addition to that, I know where I don't keep candy and sugar in the house because I'll eat it. It's delicious. Of course it is. Thank goodness I don't live in Vegas or I'd be gambling every other day. Right. So I know where my hot buttons are, and I put my environment, and know this for yourself. Know what your hot buttons are, and then allow you to enjoy it. So perception is my big thing. I notice the strangest things in the world. I can tell, oh, you changed your hair. Hey, Stone, you lost 7 pounds, didn't you?
Hey, Stone, you put a whole bunch of barbecue sauce on your ribs.
I did tell you that the other day. We were eating. He's been eating good. I'm like, can you go to barbecue? He's like, just don't tell Liddell. Hopefully Liddell's not listening.
Right.
Just don't tell Liddell.
I'm snitching.
And then I'm like, well, it's just barbecue, man. It's good. And then I'm like, he's like, I'll take the mac and cheese and all of this. I'm like, oh, that's why. That's why. So bad. So I'm sitting at the hotel we were at in Italy, and I saw, and by the way, you would think like, oh, in Italy, there's a ton of Americans. There isn't. There's a lot of travelers, but there isn't that many Americans. I mostly was listening to foreign languages. I saw a guy walk in, just noticed, I mean, I see everybody walk in, and I saw him and his family. He looked a little American, but regardless, I just noticed his face, and I just noticed his face, and it's there, right? Just, oh, okay. We're at a little restaurant down the street. Him and his family sit next to us. But in Italy, you're not sitting. You're sitting next to someone like we're all sitting.
Yeah,
next to.
right.
You're not like in a big restaurant somewhere. And I said, hey. And yes, my personality, so that's the difference. My wife would never do this. I'm like, hey, you're staying at our same hotel. Oh, I saw you walk. Oh, nice to meet you. Where are you from? And he happened to be American, and they told the whole story and everything. And he mentioned he was going to this amazing place called Chenot in Switzerland after this, where he's doing this full body detoxification. Simply put, high five, Ross. Nice to meet you. We send each other information. He is a successful businessman, and he gave us advice on what to do when we were there. Okay, so out of the blue, and I have a website. I have my email Lee, but I have a website LeeHeisman.com. By the way, I do not have this. I'm not promoting it. I have a private email address, Lee@LeeHeisman.com. That was real tough for me to do. I tried iCloud, I tried a Yahoo, me. I was so obnoxious, right? It was so obnoxious. But the more and more I did it, I'm like, I need to have some type of Office 365. So I did the @LeeHeisman.com, and then I called a friend and said, look, I do not plan on having, I do speaking engagements, but I don't care about this. Just make me a quick website, because when I see, and remember, we're going to talk about this, I treat people and do things the way I would want.
Right.
Okay? There was a director years ago named Steven Spielberg, and they asked.
I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, you've heard of him.
Yeah.
Jaws, E.T.
Yeah,
Like I grew up with it.
Up and comer.
They asked Spielberg. I'm going to use his term. They said to Spielberg, and I've lived my life, how do you make all these movies that everybody loves? E.T., Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He said, I don't make the movies that other people love. I make the movies I like.
Yeah,
it just happens to be what I like, other people like. And that is the way that I behave in life. And those are tremendous words of wisdom. So when I get an email, if I get an email, Johnny, from you that was Johnny Vaughn, right, Doc, at johnny@johnnyvaughn.com, I would immediately go to www.johnnyvaughn.com because you own that domain. And most people who do that, just it's like page under repair.
Yep.
It just, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you loser, right? I'm sorry. I'm
I'm the same way.
Not you. Do you do that? Is that what your situation?
I do.
I never looked it up.
I'm gonna talk about this
Please
specifically.
do, 'cause I just
Don't
called
lose who
this
you are.
out.
Yeah, so I do this. I work on the Hitch method, and I do it on purpose because when I first got into what I'm doing now, I had the big website. I had all these links to different things. And then I was getting clientele that weren't the kind of value that I wanted.
Fair.
So I retracted all of that stuff. And
Fair.
instead of putting it back out, I talked to my most prominent, the Pareto principle, the 80-20, the 20% of my clients that were of the high value.
Yes.
I talked to them and say, hey, listen, if you have other clients of yours who could use my services, share my info. And that's where my business has come from. So I have a very minimal footprint. My footprint is goofy.
I love it.
It is. Like
Absolutely.
my social media is like me doing TikTok dances for fun. But for work, my clients refer me, and that's where my business comes
That's
from.
the way I roll.
If you go to johnnyvaughn.com, if you go to jonathanwells.com, the domains that I do own, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And
So
it's on
I
purpose.
didn't know this, and now I feel bad. So
No, it's okay.
No, you should-
I am a loser.
No, and I didn't.
But if you go to stonestafford.com, you'd be like, oh, he hadn't had a speaking engagement in 3 years.
Let me retract. I didn't mean the word loser because that's a very aggressive word. I meant, oh, that's a hack, right?
Yeah, I totally get it.
Like, so I would recommend just even putting your information up, if I may, and not having any contact info. Okay. But at least it represents, because I want to, if I meet you and I look up your domain, it's just the way that I am. I'm like, oh, let me see. Even if it's just a picture, just look, a picture of you like this, you look cool as hell, that would be it. And it just had you, no contact info. But at least it shows, hey, I'm aware of what's happening behind the scenes. So bottom line is, against all of my judgment, it took me 2 months to make the decision. I said, hey, my friend Joey, just put me a 1 or 2 page website up, and I will never point anybody there. Don't forget, don't do social media. Sure. So I emailed this contact out of Italy. Needless to say, I get a call the other day. Somebody for one of the first times says, hey, Lee, I need your I jumped on your website and I need your coaching. Okay, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, because on the website there was a contact page. I looked up the guy. He says, I'm the top salesperson for one of the the fastest growing company in the world. Okay, there's 3 offices. He lives in Atlanta. And I immediately spoke to him not long after and said, hey, he started telling me the story. He's like, well, I was at this health place called Chenot, and I met this guy named Ross who said he met you in Italy and you really made an impression on him, and I thought it'd be great for us to get in touch. I tell that story for the randomness that I'm sitting in a hotel. I see a guy, don't know who he is. They happen to sit next to us. I start making conversation, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm like, eat your meal, please go do what you do. But what I think he liked was I had a pizza that was the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in my life. And he looked at it, and I'm like, you're looking at this, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, it's delicious. It's a Spielberg theory. Like, I love this. Listen, if you don't love it, it's okay, but then you'd be a weirdo, I said. So this is, like, I'm eating pure flavor. There's no crust here. It's real thin. You eat the pizzas with forks and knives. Whatever the impression is I made of him, I was just being my uber self in your face. It made an impression that he met a guy later, connected him to me, and it came back around. So I had to tell that weird story. I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but I still laughed at
it. Fits Stone's attraction theory, so
it's exactly what it was. It was just you just keep putting yourself out there. But I'll tell you, if you, I'll share this last piece on how this probably came about. In New Jersey, when I grew up, and we would go to the bars in Philly. Right, my friend and I was a quiet guy. So you might be listening here going, man, I'm pretty quiet, right? Like I'm not Lee sounds very gregarious and very
we're getting into that.
Loquacious and, that's just it. I'm not like that. I'm quiet. So for listeners out there, I'm very sensitive and considerate is probably my strongest suit is consideration.
Sure.
Like you said it early on, John, I love that you noticed it. I'm always looking back and forth at you. I want to be considerate. I love speaking to a live crowd, and I'm very interactive with that crowd and very engaging.
Very complimentary too.
So
he's very
but I'm also very honest. If you were terrible, I'd say something. Well, look, I just said to you, I didn't say loser. I've attracted losers.
He called me a loser. But it was out there. It's out there now.
It was out there now.
And I'm not cutting it from the video.
No,
Lee
keep
Heisman called
keep
Johnny
it.
Vaughn a loser.
Well, so when I said loser, it's funny. It came out of my mouth. I'm like, I didn't mean that exact word. I meant a hack, which is still loser is very grand. Like that's a bad thing. But the hack, I didn't like.
Let's do this really quickly. I'm gonna reach. Don't lose where you are.
Yes.
You cannot hurt my feelings, just like you said earlier. There's nothing you can say because I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go to work on the $1 million deal I'm working on when I leave here. And I'm still Johnny Vaughn.
Yes.
That doesn't change. So say what it is because I want people to remember that when you're out, people are going to use terms that you can easily internalize, and that can knock you back if that subconscious thing starts to get to you. You have to know who you are in these moments.
Johnny. Yeah, man.
Who was it? It was Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart did an interview recently, and he was like, the problem with a lot of business deals falling apart now is ego. He's like, the reason why he can call Jay-Z and say, hey, let's do this, man, or he can call The Rock and say, hey, let's do this, man. They're like, yeah, let's do this because Dwayne Johnson knows he's Dwayne Johnson.
Right.
Kevin Hart said, I'm Kevin Hart. When I walk out of here, there's nothing you can do to change that I'm Kevin Hart. So say it all. But in that, I want people to remember, and these are my little nuggets that I throw out, because I actually watched this happen last week. One of my technicians overheard someone talking about something that he did incorrectly in a space that wasn't his strong suit, but he's a phenomenal lighting designer. And I was like, dude, you don't do this. It's cool. Like, don't beat yourself up because this looks amazing.
Yeah. Right.
What you did in here got me a re-sign for next year. That's okay. So know who you are in those moments. I had to do that.
I love it. And again, I made the mistake with respect. I used the word hack and I meant it if that's that was my perspective if someone didn't have supporting information.
Sure.
So be clear, you've already arrived, you've attained a level of success, you can just keep it off, right? And it's funny, I didn't know that when I was sharing, when I was making my own website, I'm like, I gotta have something because if people look it up, they're gonna be like, oh, this guy isn't real, he's just using a website. So I do like substantive information behind, but I love in your model, if you ever chose to go back to it, don't put contact info, but just boom, a picture of who you are or something. That's what I would recommend because you got a whole great presence around you.
Please believe that is accepted and I may actually do that.
I think you should.
Yeah.
But that was just my 2 cents that you didn't ask for. I'm throwing it in your pocket.
I want you to see me as, this is the part where I'm going to get in my feelings. I want the next time Lee Heisman talks to me, say, you know what, that guy Johnny has it all. He also has a landing page.
He's got it all except the website.
He also has a landing page.
He has a landing page.
Yeah, he's got a landing page.
Go to JohnnyWells.com. Wait, why Kimbo Slice on this?
Oh my gosh. There's a little Kimbo. Yeah. So I will tell you, for those of you out there that are not gregarious, loquacious, big talkers, my development into that was not because I wanted to have the microphone or the stage in any way, shape, or form. I will never forget, and I'm using the example, I was in my early 20s, quiet guy, very considerate, would go to the bars to meet girls. Wanted to meet girls. What guy doesn't want to meet girls in Philly or in whatever city?
South Street?
No, Walnut Street.
Okay.
So, Walnut Street.
Yep.
So I just remember I would go to the bars with my friend, and I wasn't a drinker, by the way. And we would just want to meet girls, or this is before online dating or things of that nature. And I would go and I'd see a girl I wanted to talk to, I'd see another girl, and I just wouldn't talk to them.
Yeah.
And what do you think I would do? I would go home and beat myself up all night, all next week. I can't believe I didn't talk to this girl. I can't believe I didn't do that. And even as I was in my young days, even before I started opening the businesses, I would have a lot of regret. And most and all of my behavior over the past few successful decades is not because I want something, it's to avoid regret. So I am, and Johnny's face it just oozed in on you. Majority of my movement and behavior, like I'll walk up to anybody, talk to anybody, do anything, and I've had the fortune of doing that. And even if it's not received, I don't walk away going, I should have done that. So to me, the pain of regret outweighs the pain of failure all day long. Yes. And my entire modus operandi, my whole MO is not I want something, it's what I don't want is regret.
Right.
So that is kind of how I've gotten where I am, and I just made that one, meaning that's the truth, but I hadn't planned on talking about that.
Yeah. You got to experience life.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I don't know how much regret people experience, but it's painful when you put it on yourself.
Oh, it hurts really bad. So this is a thing that Stone does that I don't do. That we, again, one of those tension spots between us.
Every time he says that, I'm wondering, oh, come on, what is
No, this was
I
not
share a
bad.
lot with this guy, so I'm like, what is he about to
Stone speaks a lot of the positive things. And we had a conversation not too long ago. It was like, the way you talk about things, it's like you're omitting that this bad thing happened. And then he had to redress. He's like, no, I'm not admitting it. I was like, well, no. The way you talk about it is in such a positive light to where it almost seems like the bad thing doesn't exist. And I'm one of those people that's like, no, the bad thing literally has to be front of mind. And then I can put it in my back pocket after I have absorbed it enough to say, this cannot happen again, in order to build that drive from me. My fuel doesn't personally come from I have such a positive attitude where I can just walk out every day and say, I'm going to be the go-getter. I'm going to do this. Because I'm actually a really, really shy dude myself.
Yeah, I don't see you doing that. It's funny. You're not that.
I don't talk a lot. And it's odd because I work, and people are like, you work in radio. How do you not talk? I was like, dude, that's my job. I talk for 1 minute and 42 seconds at a time max. And then I'm in the studio by myself.
That sounds like Stone. You were talking about you and your wife the other day.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. 1 minute 42 seconds.
No,
Sorry.
a minute. I got what he said.
I was looking at your eyes. I was like, I'm not getting it, but I'm gonna be like,
I know. I got the quickie reference.
Sorry.
It's okay. Don't let that go over your head. The quickie reference.
Hey, 1:42 is above average. See, there's the being positive part again, right?
Look at that.
I just see the positive part. It's above average.
It's spectacular.
You're not going to act like that 1:42 didn't happen, though. You're going to use it and say, I don't want to be a minute man.
What I'm going to do is every man has had a 1:42 moment. Sure. So you can be in denial all you want to.
all I'm pointing out is that I commend it and I admire it because, again, like, you hit me when we got in here just saying I'm being negative, and then you explain the reasoning behind it. And my whole thing is always to not forget that bad thing, because that can be a greater fuel sometimes than even just being positive.
But there's a difference between not forgetting something and then giving it energy.
Sure.
You know, and I think that's where my thing is. I'm very quick to release my energy off of something. I'll acknowledge something negative happened. Boom, you happened. But like Lee, I'm very quick to smash those glasses. Mm-hmm. I'm quick because if I spend too much time in that rabbit hole, you're now going to drain me. You're now going to suck me dry. You're going to bring me backwards. Mm-hmm. I don't give it the opportunity to do that. Like, that negative thing happened. It did. It is what it is. Nothing we can do. Move on.
Well, you know, let's be fair to listeners out there. If you're enjoying this so far, hopefully people still are hanging around listening to this.
They haven't gone anywhere. They're afraid of me.
Well, that's good.
Kimbo slight. No,
Let's also be fair. I started by saying not everybody's loquacious, gregarious.
Sure.
So like, well, how do I do that? How do I talk to somebody, right? And then you just have to realize that pain or that feeling of regret is more painful than whatever you're going to experience doing that out of your comfort zone stuff, right? So remember, if you're unhappy where you are, or maybe you're not exactly where you want to be, then you must make a change. And if this podcast and video inspires you to say, okay, I get it. This pain of whatever I'm experiencing, this discomfort, might not be as bad compared to the pain I'm experiencing unless I go do something else, or that'll be not as bad as this. That'll inspire you to do that. Here's the second piece, because we do talk about happiness and energy, and I do have a lot of energy, which is preposterous. I'm always like this, by the way. Stone knows it. Johnny, you're experiencing it.
I'm experiencing it
right now. And this 2 hour,
to be honest, it is draining me.
Yeah. No, well, you're also tired.
I'm
dude.
tired.
Come
too.
on, man. You've
I
had
love it.
Yeah, you're tired. Yes.
But you know, let's share something really important. If you are trying to become better, and you know, this is probably what I'm going to be talking about next Tuesday on a held belief saboteur system. I won't waste your time on that, but that's for the kids at Goshen. You know, you have to take care of yourself. I'm very much the airplane theory. When I say the airplane theory, and again, you know where I'm
knows.
going.
I talk about it all the time.
we use it all the time.
But I've been saying this
Yeah.
for decades, by the way. Is when the plane has issues and the air things come down, and you have a child next to you, you do not put the air mask on your child in the 30 seconds it takes to put it on your child. If you don't get it on the child, you could pass out from lack of oxygen. Now you both go down.
Right.
But you put it on yourself first, very quickly in 3 seconds, and then your child takes it, and now you can take care of others. So I am extremely driven on taking care of myself. I might look very considerate, and if you were to ask friends, family, loved ones, I am always thinking of them. But I've got to do what I have to do, so I have the energy and willingness to do it. So, and again, I'm not going to make this a health and wellness podcast.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
But it's a piece of it,
Yeah.
which is if you're not taking care of yourself health and wellness wise, if you're not fueling yourself correctly, again, whatever you choose to do in your life, but if you're not feeling good, physically feeling good, you can have the right mindset. But if you are throwing junk in that gas tank of yours on a daily basis and not taking care of it, I don't know how you can maintain that level of positivity and happiness. So I know you're looking funny.
Oh
when
yeah,
you
he
say
went
it.
through it with Liddell and Stevie.
So this is the thing.
You gotta make sure you
and
listen.
Liddell's
What episode was that?
I love
Episode
Liddell.
144.
I don't know what it was. Yeah, a
I
couple
think it was
of-
144. Make sure you guys watch that.
I'll point this out.
It was 145.
I'm a very
So-
different individual physiology wise. My body's immune to caffeine, which is a good thing. The little thing that shuts off, that makes you think you're not sleepy, that lets you keep going, it doesn't happen to me. However, when I have weeks like I just had, I have nothing that can keep me up except sugar. So my sugar intake is probably quadruple what the average human does.
Fair.
But this is my first of 2 for today.
Damn.
And then I'm in my new grilled chicken, and I've cut my calories down to 1,000 for the next 3 weeks, which is going to be hard going into the next thing. So I balance it. Stone says that it's not enough of a balance, but I do put a lot of bad things into my body to produce what I produce. Now that's what I'm struggling
Johnny's
with
whole
right
thing
now.
is like he'll snort a line of Coke and then take a vitamin C to balance it out.
It might be 1,000 vitamin C's, but
really, dude?
but what I'm pointing out is that even me,
He doesn't
like
do coke, by the way.
small level of success that I'm experiencing right now, like the last couple of years for me have been really, really good. And it looks like that trajectory is going to continue, but my balance has been the interpersonal health thing. Like, I don't put my mask on. I preach it. This is one of those do as I say, not as I do things.
Right.
I preach it to everybody.
You're smoking the cigarette, telling everybody not to smoke.
Exactly. And I say don't
cigarettes,
smoke
right?
cigarettes. I tell everybody, don't drink 2 liters of soda a day. You don't do that. Don't eat 14 Snicker
Yeah, but you
bars
and
a
I
week.
talked about this before the show. We were talking about this before the show, which is, you can only be the master of certain areas.
Yes.
And if you learn to release the other ones and realize I'm not going to be good there, that's okay. Example, I have no style. I know your joke about it. I'm in jeans and a t-shirt 98% of the time. I cannot put 2 articles of clothing together. When I see somebody dressed well, and please, I will tell you what I'm good at. So
Do you
please
ever
be clear.
not tuck your t-shirt in?
I do, but nobody
I was
likes
just
their own
wondering.
physique, and then it'd be look like a bat. Like I might as well go stand in a corner like there's barrels. You know what I'm talking about with the big signs. Especially because I have words across the front.
Well, actually, you can tuck your t-shirt in because you actually have abs. We don't.
Yeah,
Because we-
but to this point, it's really important people know I'm not being humble. I'll tell you what I'm good at. I am not good at clothes. I see somebody dressed well, and I will stop them and I talk about it. Like, whoa, how'd you put that? Wow, that's a beautiful outfit, and it's authentic. I'm like, I could never put that together. And the reality is, I'm okay with it, and I'm never going to put it together. I have 25 black T-shirts in my closet, pretty much with different words on them, or just black. I have jeans and I have sneakers, and that is, I have a suit or 2 suits if I have to put something on professionally.
Right.
But I can't put that cool
And
style.
a bunch of shirts to mix and match. That's really neat.
I don't even have shirts to mix and match. I got like 1 shirt for the suit. That's about it.
Right on.
It was that literally pathetic.
Okay.
But I own it because I'm so good at all the other stuff that I do.
Yeah.
To your point, regarding health and wellness and eating better, and again, I'm picking on Johnny, you're going to have to make that for sustainability,
Absolutely.
right? So for sustainability, you're going to have to make some level of change. But then you've got to let go of another segment. You can't be good at everything that you think you want to be good at, and you kind of have to minimize in your expertise and be really, really good. The whole, I think you said earlier, I'm a master of none, but a great
Jack
at
of all
the different
trades, but
stuff.
master of absolute.
So back to what I was saying. What